Tony, if you want to jump in, what is your initial thoughts of the movie? Oh, Tony, are you okay? You want to take a minute?
Give him some water. I never wanted to walk out of a movie more than anything in my life. And I saw Ghostbusters 2016 in theaters, okay?
Yeah, that's pretty much sums up Welcome to Raccoon City for me. If you want to see more of that clip, please go over to my other channel with the guys at the Residents of Evil Row Network, and you will see all of our thoughts and opinions in brief summaries, and everybody else that's in that group will have their own summary and full videos coming up about Welcome to Raccoon City at one point. But for now, welcome guys, this is yet another movie review, and as you can tell, I am reviewing Welcome to Raccoon City. Now, I went in this with no expectations at all. Honestly, I wasn't going to be impressed by this movie any which way. I knew this was just going to be a cash-in. And one of the biggest things that I knew, or the reason why it was going to be a cash-in, was because they showed nothing of this movie for the longest time. There was literally no advertisement for it. The trailer dropped about a month before the film comes out, and everybody knew that this was being made. There was no hidden secrecy about this. This didn't just come out of nowhere. No, fans got a hold of photos, and the actual studio and the actors were releasing photos from the sets and all this really cool stuff that made it look really good. And for a while, part of me was like, well, you know what? Maybe they'll do a decent job, but I'm still not gonna be happy about this because I know it's gonna be a dumpster fire. I literally went into this movie with zero expectations, and somehow I'm still disappointed. Can someone explain that? Because this is the problem with Hollywood. Hollywood doesn't care, nor do they understand video games and how to make them into movies. Welcome to Raccoon City is literally a character assassination of everything we know from Resident Evil itself. Now, I'm not going to tell you guys that you can't enjoy this movie, alright? If you love this movie, that's fine. I'm not saying, you're evil if you love it or anything like that, because one of the people in that video, actually two of the people in that video, did enjoy this movie. But they understood what was wrong with it, and that's the thing. If you can like something, that's fine. But call out the bullshit when you see it. From gaming companies, from TV companies, movie companies, because if you don't, you're just going to continuously get bad games and movies and TV shows. And Welcome to Raccoon City fits in that category. There is so much wrong with the pacing of this movie, storylines that start and go nowhere, and characters that you just don't give a damn about. Now, I'm not going to say that the actors are terrible, because I actually think that they were all pretty well cast. I think that if this cast had proper direction from the directors and better writing, because the writing in this is friggin' terrible. It is really bad. This movie plays on nostalgia. That's the way they sold this movie. Was if you saw the trailers, you're going to see Easter eggs upon Easter eggs and shots from the games recreated in this new world. And fans don't want a shot-for-shot remake of something. We don't mind when people take liberties and do things differently, but they have to make sense. So the big change in here is the origin story for Chris and Claire. Their backstory was always kind of iffy as is. You know that they lost their parents very young, and Chris pretty much raised Claire and I think put her through school, if that is canon-wise. But this time around, they're both in the Raccoon City Orphanage, which is something we see from Resident Evil 2 Remake. And, they show Lisa Trevor in there. And then you find out that there's experiments being done in the orphanage, and she's one of the experiments. Now, I don't necessarily mind what they did to Lisa Trevor in here, but I will talk about that in a second. So Claire becomes friends with her, and eventually Claire runs away because you find out that William Birkin was doing experiments on the children at this place, and he had plans for Chris and Claire. Eventually Claire ran away, and for some reason never bothered to go after her. It was strange. It felt like what they were alluding to for both Chris and Claire being in this movie and being experimented on was because they were special. Because at one point in the movie, Claire finds footage of the Ashford twins, and then there's William Birkin smiling very creepily and weird. It's very uncomfortable. but it makes you think, oh, right, so maybe what he did with the Ashford twins, maybe he was successful there, and he's trying to recreate it here. Maybe that's what he's trying to do. And I thought, cool, great, right? No, that's not really what it was. They never allude to anything. Again, a plot that goes nowhere. And Claire comes to the city because Ben Bertolucci, who is in this, is portrayed as a crazy conspiracy theorist, and apparently Claire had become one herself. Again, they focus a lot of this movie on Claire, but don't really do much with her. I think the actress who plays her is fantastic, and I think she actually looks like Claire. No ponytail and everything, and let's face it, the 90s were big with ponytails. They really were, when you think about it. Anyway, she goes to Raccoon City because she needs to talk to Chris about what she knows and everything that she thought about as a kid and what she dug up, which they don't really dig that much up because they don't tell you how she knows all this stuff. She goes back and all hell breaks loose, and during the time of her arrival, Chris and the other STARS teams have to go to the Spencer Mansion because, well, Bravo team went missing. Oh yeah, there's only 2 members of Bravo team in this. Yeah. And when the guy's name was Kevin, when that popped up on screen because we had subtitles in the theater we rented out, I thought it was a throwback to Outbreak. You know, Kevin Ryman, but it's actually Kevin Dooley. I think that's the name. So I was like, oh, okay, well that's something, right? And they both go to the Spencer Mansion because it said that a body was found at the mansion, and only 2 members of Bravo team, because there's only 2, go there. No backup, no coroner, no nothing. I'm just thinking to myself, what the hell is up with this? You're sending 2 people, that's it, and a body found in an abandoned mansion? Like, come on, man. Like, this is a very poorly run police department. It really is. And eventually, you know, you find out that Chief Irons knows about what's going on, but I'll get into that a little bit as well. Leon Kennedy's in this movie, and he's just, I think the biggest character assassination was him. They really fucked up things tremendously. It was bad. I just don't understand how they could do it as bad. Like, the character is so unlovable in this. He's a complete blithering idiot. And again, it's not the actor's fault. I think the actor who played him was actually pretty good. I mean, I think if they focused more on being a rookie, more so than a bumbling rookie, I think it would have been a lot better. But unfortunately, they didn't. And he just drops the ball time and time again. And, you know, the zombies, they start talking in this. And I'm not really against that because these people are slowly infected by the T-virus because Umbrella was poisoning the water supply in the city, as Ben finds out. Now, the city, which looks like a small town in my opinion, is literally empty. Raccoon City was dying because Umbrella moved their headquarters from there to another town. And everybody was slowly getting infected. People's eyes were bleeding, and when Claire goes to Chris's house, she looks and sees a little boy at the window looking at her, and then the mother appears, and she's got like all this hair falling off, and you know, it's really weird. And then at one point in Chris's house, Claire looks over, and then there's that woman at the window, or at the door trying to get in, writing "Itchy Tasty." I don't mind that. That's pretty cool, right? It's actually kind of creepy to see that. And again, one of the ways that you don't have to recreate things shot for shot to have it be good. And I really like that. But then the front door opens and you hear scuttering around, and Claire's looking all around for this noise, and she sees something crawling on the table, and it's the little boy from next door. And she's like, you know, she kind of recites the line that Sherry gives and Claire gives in the Resident Evil 2 remake. It's like, are you okay? Do you need help? And he's like, no, you need help. And then the woman crashes through the window. And this is where it gets a bit ridiculous. Literally, the woman starts screaming, you know, "Itchy Tasty, Itchy Tasty!" And Claire just flips her over and runs out of the house. Grabs Chris's motorcycle. Just kind of surprised the woman didn't really run after her. But, yeah, it's really crazy. And then at one point, at the intersection, because Birkin's trying to get his family to the orphanage to get the G-Virus so they can get out of the city, because Umbrella's apparently coming to steal the work. They don't explain who was on the phone, which I assume it's the character that you see at the end of this movie, but yeah, it's just a mess. And Claire sees Birkin, she flips everything, he knows it's her, she knows it's him, and that goes nowhere. At all. I am not joking, it goes absolutely nowhere. So at one point, Irons tries to flee the city, Umbrella stops a lot of the people and starts shooting them, and at one point it looks like that guy in the suit is probably Hunk, which, again, cool if we know that it's him, but if it's just some random Umbrella soldier, missed opportunity. And speaking of Hunk, it's not even Hunk that gets the drop on Birkin this time, it's Wesker. You see, Wesker has a Palm Pilot. This is how 90s we're getting here, ladies and gentlemen. And that Palm Pilot shows that, you know, the Raccoon City is going to be destroyed. It shows him how to do all the puzzles, which this is like a direct connection to the S.D. Perry novel, The Umbrella Conspiracy. So I'm thinking, oh, they're throwing in the book? Okay, I like that. That's pretty good, right? And eventually, Wesker tells Jill what's going on, and that he plays the piano, opens up a secret door. He explains to her it was just about the money, getting out of here, yada yada yada. And Jill also has nothing to do in this movie. Jill literally does nothing in this film at all. You don't buy her relationship with Wesker because they're supposed to be in a relationship, but they literally leave nothing to it. Best way I can describe it, if you've ever seen the original X-Men movie that came out in like 99, 2000, if you're an X-Men fan, you know that Scott Summers and Jean Grey are a couple. But in that movie, if you've never seen the comics, you don't know that they're a couple. You're just like, oh, they're a couple. That's it. There's literally nothing about it. There's no build to any of these characters out here, right? And that's kind of the biggest issue with this, is that all these characters are just so hollow. It's mind-boggling. It really tugs at the strings, and at one point, Leon actually finds Ben down in like the holding area, and Ben knows about what's going on in the city. He knows about the T-virus, he knows about the G-virus, and there's a guy infected in the cell. He's not really freaking out that much. He gets Leon's gun because Leon was stupid enough to get close to him, and Ben's like, get me out of here. Get me out of here now. And when he finally opens the door, Ben turns around to see the zombie and gets his throat ripped out and instantly dies, and I'm like, he knew what that was. Why would he keep his head not focused on the zombie? Of course, the zombie coming out of the cell looked really cool, I gotta admit that. But honestly, this was something that really just didn't work, because at one point, when they flee the RPD, they have to go to the orphanage, and Irons knows the way out, and Claire says, you knew it, you were on their payroll type deal, right? She finds out that he knew. Because at one point they kind of allude to it where like a zombie literally walks into the RPD while Leon's got his headphones on. And not even a zombie walk, he's just casually strolling by with fire on him. And I was just like, this is so stupid. And he goes, you know, like, and Irons lets out that he knows something. But again, they don't elaborate on that. And the liquor in the orphanage actually kills Irons. But it kills him in the dumbest way possible, to where, like, Claire and Leon should have known that liquor was there, because Irons was right behind them when he got taken. It was just ridiculous. Now, the better way to make that scene work was to let Ben out of the cell to have him survive the zombie. And he goes with Claire and Leon as they try to explore. Irons gets taken out by the liquor regardless, right? Or something. Or Lisa Trevor. And Ben explains the whole thing. He's like, they've been doing it for years, Claire. It was the water. They started doing experiments. They knew they were going to have to move out of the town. They purposely bankrupted the town so people would leave and go other places while they stayed and infected the rest for testing. Things like that would have been great exposition and great way to actually tell a story. And then the liquor could have came in and cut Ben's like face like right off, right? Like it could have like lashed out with its tongue and cut the lower half of his face off or something like that. That would have been a better way to do it, to give his character a better arc. If he didn't come back after that initial videotape, it would have been fine. But they added him in for no reason. The Birkin family, like I said, is completely useless in this too. William Birkin does more in his flashbacks than he does in present day. His wife, Annette, does absolutely nothing. She actually gets iced by Wesker at one point, and then Sherry's left alone, and Sherry does nothing in this. Like, the actress playing her, like, they didn't give her anything to do. You could have literally left her out of it, and it would have been fine. But you put her in, and then Jill at one point is supposed to help Sherry. She's supposed to be the Claire now. What? And they show like two quick scenes of them together, and that's it. Oh, another thing too, Jill gets assassinated more as a character in this, more and more that I think about it. Claire unlocks a door to Chris's house using a buck knife and like prying it open pretty much. That's supposed to be Jill doing that. Jill's the master of unlocking. Wesker's playing the piano. That's supposed to be Jill playing the piano with the Moonlight Sonata, and the actress herself knows how to play the piano. Again, bad writing, bad pacing. They get into the mansion, they see that famous zombie, and these zombies in the mansion look more like zombies because they've been obviously infected a lot longer, but they don't really explain how the infection got in the actual mansion. You just go in there and there's zombies. Now, obviously, you can say, oh, there was a leak in the lab, yada, yada, yada. That's what we're doing, but it just doesn't work. And at one point in the orphanage, Lisa Trevor fights the licker and kills it, which is awesome, by the way. It's really cool, because she was trying to warn them about the licker on the ceiling, and it turns out that Lisa Trevor remembers Claire. And she shows her to the room, hands her some keys, which is an awesome little thing, because the keys are the RPD keys, the precinct keys. And eventually, you know, she shows her the door, and Claire unlocks it and thanks her. And the door closes, like, you know, she's just there, like, saying Claire, friend, and it's like an E.T. type thing. The door closes, and then that's it. You don't see Lisa Trevor for the rest of the movie. She literally dies with Raccoon City. It's ridiculous. As time goes on, Wesker, obviously, he shoots Birkin. He's the hunk in this now. He's the one doing all the damage. Instead of Hunk having a group and stuff, he's the one who shoots Birkin. Birkin injects himself with the virus, transforms, and it's very underwhelming. It's really not good. But there is kind of like a Resident Evil 5 moment where Chris is down there in the orphanage now because they all figure out a way to get out of the mansion and go after Wesker, because the mansion and the orphanage are connected. And there's a moment where, you know, Birkin's walking through the underground tunnels, like, calling for Chris, and he literally sounds like RE5 at one point. He's literally like, Chris! And I'm like, okay, alright, I'll give them a pass for that. That was pretty good. And overall, the movie just doesn't work in so many ways. And so what I was thinking was, Birkin's going to keep coming for them, right? They down Birkin really easily. Chris shoots him in the face with a shotgun, and eventually the G starts mutating. They find the train, they get to the train area, and they all load up. Jill and Leon are in the front, and Chris comes back, and he's injured from fighting Birkin. He's got like a busted rib or whatever. And then as they're leaving, Birkin attacks the train like in RE2, which is cool, right? Well, nothing happens. Claire's just watching the thing break through and lets it take her. Chris fires all of his guns as he can, and eventually Leon comes in to save the day with a rocket launcher. He pretty much gives off a Leon Kennedy action man one-liner, right? But what doesn't work in this is the fact that he fires the rocket so close, Chris is right fucking there. And when it blows up, Chris goes flying forward, Birkin throws Claire, and Birkin dies in the explosion. But when the explosion hits, you don't even see Birkin explode into pieces or anything. There's just the back of the train, that's it. And Jill walks in all of a sudden, and she's like, "The fuck you do to the train?" It's literally so bullshit is what this all is. It really is, ladies and gentlemen, and it gets worse because I said to myself and the others in my group, I was like, you know, if Lisa Trevor had jumped onto the train too, like she found a way down there and fought Birkin for a while, that would have been cool. And apparently that was actually supposed to be a thing. I did find that out, that they did have that. And Mr. X was also going to be in the movie, and apparently they shot scenes with Mr. X. So I can honestly say the only reason why you want to buy this movie is to see the deleted scenes if X is in there, and to give Lisa Trevor a bit more time. They had planned that, but scrapped it, which... Look, this movie, if you're not looking at it based off a video game, you gotta look at what this movie is. Its characters are terrible, there's no growth between them, there's no love, there's no chemistry. All the characters in here are just here, there's so many of them, the runtime is so short that there's no time to actually get connected to these characters. And it runs on nostalgia and Easter eggs. You see, that's fine if you want to have nostalgia and Easter eggs in your shows, because it can work. I mean, for Ghostbusters Afterlife, people say they relied too much on it, but I think it did actually very well. The problem, though, with this is the fact that that's all there is. There's no other substance. It's like, you know, seeing it, like a, best way I can describe it, like a jelly donut, right? It looks great, it looks delicious, and that's what all these things are. All the Easter eggs and the references to the game are beautiful, but you bite into it, and it's like no jelly inside. That's exactly the way that I can describe it. When you actually watch this movie, there's no substance or reasons why you're going to like this. Or say it's a good movie, right? And that's the problem. I mean, if you like the movie, again, that's fine. But overall, this movie is terrible from all the structures that I pointed out. If this somehow gets greenlit for a sequel, they need to fucking heavily overdo things. They need to get competent directors, competent writers who understand the source material, and get these actors on board and direct them better. Because, ladies and gentlemen, this was just a complete and utter waste of time, money, and people have been asking me, is it better than the Anderson movies? And I can't really say that in a comparison, because here's the thing. The Anderson movies took things from Resident Evil itself, but made it its own thing. Granted, they're fucking terrible as hell, but it's their own thing. Whereas this thing tries to be the video games and fails on numerous levels because so much is just crammed into one movie. And this movie clearly wants to establish a universe. And this is what happens with any franchise right now that tries to be Marvel and start a cinematic universe. They cram too much. They focus on everything else, this world they're trying to build, but they're not focusing on the starting point. Iron Man worked was because they didn't talk about an extended universe. They didn't talk about Thor or Captain America or anything like that. It was just Iron Man being Iron Man, discovering himself, becoming this superhero, redeeming himself for weapons trading. And then at the end, Nick Fury shows up and talks about the Avengers Initiative. That right there is how you do it. This thing tries to set up way too much. And again, they don't focus on the... This movie should have been at least 2 hours and 30 minutes. I think it would have been better. The budget shouldn't have been slashed like it was, because you can clearly tell that it was. But overall, people are asking me, should you go see this movie? And I say no. If you're a Resident Evil fan, you're probably not going to like this. You're probably going to be as pissed off as me and most of my team and friends were at this movie. But if you want to rent it for like $3 on Amazon, or when it goes to a streaming service, yeah, give it a watch then, because then you're not wasting as much money as we did. So there it is, guys. That is my review for Welcome to Raccoon City. An idea that could have worked, had some cool things in it, but overall pretty much infected itself. Hollywood, you just don't get it. You gotta watch the fans, because the fans know how to make movies and series on YouTube better than you ever can. Yeah, you might got the budget, you might got the money to back you and everything, but if you don't have competent writers, and if you try to get in, because this is what Hollywood does, Hollywood tries to control the projects when they have no idea about this specific genre, that's where your problems come in. And if you keep doing this, you're gonna keep losing money. Because I guarantee you, with how bad this is getting right now, it's not one of those things where it's so bad people are going to want to watch it or play it like The Last of Us Part 2. People are just going to forget that this existed. And you've wasted your time and money, and people just want to see proper representation of characters, not direct cut and paste copy for movies and from games to movie. We just want it to be treated properly, and you don't do it. So, with that being said, please thumbs up and subscribe, because it's free. In this day and age, free's a damn good thing. As always, everybody, thank you for watching. I'm One Big Boss, and I will see you all next time.
Hey everyone, thanks again for watching this video. If you can give it a like and a share, that'd help my channel out big time. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter, where I'm most active, links down below in the description. Also, make sure you click the bell to get notified when new videos are posted, and when I go live for streams here on the channel, which I do regularly. If you want to become a Patreon and help me out, you get cool perks just for joining, such as early access to reviews and monthly hangouts on my Discord with me. Many thanks again, guys. Greatly appreciate it.